Namaste everyone. My name is Vaishali Shah. You're welcome to our session on Hindu culture and lifestyle. Today I've invited Srimati Neena Rai ji, who is going to tell us something about Ayodhya. It's a very interesting topic. So Neena ji, welcome. आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है.
Thank you for having me, Vaishali ji.
Like we have this tradition of starting the session with a small prayer. So can I? I'll just say a few words of our prayers and then we'll continue. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. See, Neena ji, so before, मैं पहले start करने से पहले, I would like to read your introduction to our to audience. Neena Rai ji is an author based out of New Delhi. She's passionate about decoding ancient scriptural knowledge and sharing it with the world. Her latest book is Amazing Ayodhya, where she reveals ancient details about the revered city. She also has a YouTube channel where she shares interesting and esoteric information. Neena ji, welcome. आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है. Neena ji, please tell us something about yourself, your initial life, your childhood. Because before we go on to the topic, I would like to know something about your early life.
So I do better if you ask me specific questions. So if you ask me specific questions, I'll be able to give you specific answers.
Yeah, so give us something about your family background and also your educational background.
So I come from an army family, and my father was an Indian Army officer, and then my uncles were also in the army. So you could say I come from an army family, and I have a master's for educational background. I studied commerce with mathematics in school, and then I went on to do BCom honors, and then after that, a master's in communication. And then after that, I did courses in writing for children, and did a lot of short courses, which I wanted to do in order to enhance my writing. I always, I had 2-3 aims in my life. As young children grow up, they have aims and then they keep changing. So when I was a very young girl, I wanted to be a model. I'm very tall, so it was just easy for me to do that. And after that, I wanted to be a businesswoman and a writer, which I am today, actually. And my interest was actually ancient cultures, like prehistoric, ancient, not prehistoric as in terms of dinosaurs, but related to humans. So prehistorical, ancient cultures across the world, actually. It is just that because I'm Hindu and I live in India, so it's very easy for me to gather information on, the topics that I discuss. And of course, being in India, you're Sanskrit is the world's oldest language, and we're very lucky to be born in India and that we have access to Sanskrit and we can learn Sanskrit. And in that manner, we can understand the thought of the most ancient people, or let's say the first people on earth, because Rigved is the oldest, the oldest writing that we have for humans on earth.
Right.
I don't think so anything precedes the Rigved, and so does Valmiki Ramayana. So Valmiki is Adi Kavi, and Valmiki Ramayana then happens to be Adi Kavita. Adi means the first. Mm-hmm. So, and what does Valmiki describe? The first lineage on this earth. So who is the first lineage? It is the lineage of Manu going from Ikshvaku. So the Ikshvaku dynasty. So what I'm trying to get to is that because I was so interested in ancient cultures, and I just wanted to know ancient thought and wanted to study ancient stuff. But then if I look at Machu Picchu, Peru, if I look at Babylonia, if I look at Egypt, I actually lived in Egypt for a while. So, but then all of that, the most ancient books are actually Hindu books. So if you want to know the thought of people, if you want to know all of this, you've got to come back to Sanskrit. You've got to come back to the Rigved and the Valmiki Ramayana. And Valmiki Ramayana tells you actually how people used to think, act, and work in those days.
So very true. So how much difficult it was for you to learn Sanskrit later in your life, or did you learn that in your school days as well? Because the biggest challenge for the newcomer who want to do research on Vedic scriptures, their first challenge is the language. So how much important it is to learn the language, or do you recommend that, okay, even if you don't know the language, you can still do the research?
I highly recommend that they learn the language. I highly, highly recommend that. I mean, I cannot emphasize how much how much importance there is to know Sanskrit. So during when I started researching, I did not have a lot of knowledge of Sanskrit. So I started young, right? Remember, I used to read all these books, etc., etc. And I started realizing that there was something wrong in the translations, English translations. But because I didn't know Sanskrit, I knew Hindi, so I knew where the problem was, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. So this is the reason I started studying Sanskrit. And of course, studying Sanskrit later in life was a bit more difficult because you're not used to studying. So getting that discipline in is very, very difficult. And, but I have to say something, as an older person, when you study Sanskrit, it's easier for you to tell your teacher, your guru, how you want to proceed about things. One of the biggest reasons people don't understand Sanskrit, or they have an aversion to Sanskrit, is that Sanskrit is taught wrongly. And I repeat it again, Sanskrit is taught wrongly in Indian schools because they start from 5th grade and they start with Sanskrit grammar. Now, grammar is irrelevant if you don't know vocabulary. So today, if I say that, Neena Rai is wearing a blue necklace, if I don't know what to call this in Sanskrit or what blue is in Sanskrit, how am I going to say what Neena Rai is doing, which is a part of grammar? And how am I going to link the sentences about Neena Rai, blue necklace, and wearing, which is a part of grammar? So this is where it is wrong. You're trying to teach grammar when the child doesn't know vocabulary. Once the child knows vocabulary, then even if grammar is wrong, you're able to understand what the child is saying. And this is one of the reasons why people in India speak very broken English. It's for all languages, so even English, when people try and speak English, they can speak broken English and you'd understand what they're trying to communicate. And, and this is where children start detesting Sanskrit. And when I was younger, I was very curious about the knowledge in Sanskrit. Of course, learning the tables was, a bit difficult in Sanskrit, but I was very, very happy to understand the meanings and everything. And when I was younger, you asked me about my Sanskrit, if I studied Sanskrit when I was a young girl. So I, in most schools, CBSE or other schools, they start in the 5th grade. But because I was in a convent school, they didn't start Sanskrit till 7th grade. So they only taught Sanskrit 7th, 8th, 9th, I think. And then I transferred by the time I got to 7th grade, I transferred to another school, which had already started in the 5th grade. So I sort of started in the middle, and I didn't understand a lot of things about what was going on because I missed 2 years of Sanskrit. But somehow I studied it till the 9th. I still retain the grammar tables, by the way, Rama, 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 which helped me later. And, the titta, anti, the vibhakti, the titta, anti, sitta, all of these I did retain the grammars, because once you learn as a child, you don't forget it, even if you get older. If you start learning now, your memory becomes rusty. So this is my journey of Sanskrit. And I picked up Sanskrit again because I wanted to directly understand what was being said rather than using a medium like English. And why I'm saying English, because English is a very bad medium for Sanskrit. English vocabulary is very limited and Sanskrit vocabulary is unlimited. So, for the same word in Sanskrit, let's say for an elephant, you'd have 100 meanings, 100 names for an elephant. So for example, Nug, Sorry, Nag is also an elephant. Hasti, yeah.
Gaj.
Hasti, Gaj, all these words are for an elephant, but in English, an elephant is an elephant. But then the meaning changes. Now, a nag, when you say a nag in Sanskrit, that means that's the elephant from the hill, because nag is hill, right? And so the hill elephant came down. So you see, there's that little meaning that English fails to deliver. So so this is one reason I also learned Sanskrit. And it was also easier for me to understand in Hindi, because Hindi vocabulary is of course richer than English vocabulary, but I still wanted to only use English and Hindi meaning as references if I couldn't understand what was being said. And my focus, because of the reasons I told you, was specifically etymology, because etymology changes a lot of things. How the word meaning has been derived. We'll pay attention. You will understand what exactly they're meaning to say and what is the context. So a lot of context setting happens in this.
So very true. So this book, Amazing Ayodhya, I have gone through the book and there are quite a few interesting topics, but a couple of things which I want to do is start with corrections. So as you said that you found quite a few things which were not correct, or they were diluted, or they were changed to the new word. So give us some examples which you have cited in your book, that what things, what kind of errors you found, and then we'll go on to the next topic.
So this is the importance of learning Sanskrit, especially vocabulary and etymology. All of Sanskrit poetry is divided in chand. Now, chand is the meter, how the meter is organized. So even Valmiki Ramayana is written in a particular chand. Now, wherever there is, a change, the verse sounds funny, or it doesn't mean, or the context is not set. So when I was doing my research, and of course, I would point out, that this is not okay. And I would consult with my teacher that, there is some problem here. And of course, he's way advanced than I am. So, he would guide me and tell me what the problem was. So there are 2 or 3 things that I've, marked in my book, Amazing Ayodhya, wherein I actually found that there were problems and I've actually corrected them. And the reason I've corrected them is that the coming generation is able to, understand, what is wrong. Because if you keep reading the English translations, sooner or later, you're bound to make mistakes. Also, English translations are sometimes senseless, absolutely senseless. So I would read English translation and my reaction was, iska na sar na pair baith raha hai. Like kahan sar hai, kahan pair hai? I would not understand anything. So there are 2 or 3 corrections I've marked in the book. The first correction that I have marked in the book is actually in the transliteration. So pronunciation is and transliteration is one place that we go wrong. And on, so if somebody opens the transliteration page, I have marked out that there are 2, letters, which we pronounce wrongly, even modern day, and even a lot of educated people make these mistakes. There is the consonant ia. It's called ia. Okay, so we make that mistake. And it's sometimes written as JNA, and this mistake has been made in the transliteration guides and in pronunciation as well. So this is one. The second is the conjunct jia. So ia as a constant is na and ya. So it becomes, I don't want to get into the, how it was formed. So the correct pronunciation is ia, and then the conjunction is jia. And jia is, people say gear, and it's wrong because it's jia. So it's not yagya, it's yajya. Because
But
it's
usually we say yagya.
Yes, so that's
yagna, or
yeah.
we say yagna.
Yeah, so it's yajya. And I try and, So because I also have been brought up in the same environment with the same pronunciation, even for me to remember to say it like this sometimes gets difficult. And I've written, why is this jia and not gya? Because it's a conjunction. So if anybody wants, they can take a look at the transliteration guide, especially if they're more fluent in English. So for example, I studied in convents, and there was a lot of emphasis. We didn't have a choice. We had to study in English. So I also used to make these mistakes. So I've corrected it for people like me. Okay. And,
Very important. Yeah.
In fact, I have written the whole translations for, people like me who would learn and read in English. And because at a very young age, I left India, my exposure to Hindi was only till I was like a young girl. And I would keep making mistakes and, in pronunciation. I still do, by the way. My pronunciation still suffers in Hindi and Sanskrit. So I did it so that at least there's a written record of correct pronunciations and how to do that. So that's one that I wanted to point out. Then there are some deliberate errors. So these deliberate errors are done to put in a particular thought. And if you are not very well versed with Sanskrit, and Sanskrit, how chand is composed or the logic behind it, if you don't have knowledge, then you can fall prey to the misinterpretations. I wouldn't call them misinterpretations, they are insertions. So for example, let's go to in my book, and I thought it was my duty to point these and correct them so that anybody who reads this is not fooled. And I have explained the reasons for these insertions, why these insertions are wrong. I don't know what was the intention of doing it, but I've pointed them out. So if we take a look at page 49 of my book, and in this I'm discussing about the how many kings were under Raja Dashrath, Maharaj Dashrath. And so we discuss the vastness of Kosla's dominion. And in vastness of Kosla's dominion, in the English rendition, which you find online, it says, Prachina Sindhu Savira Saurashtra Dakshin Pataha. Okay, so Dakshin is south, so south ki path pe. और ये kingdoms के नाम हैं जो these are the kingdoms that come under the reign of Maharaja Dashrath, right? Now there was something wrong with this shlok, and I said Prachina cannot be under the dominion of Raja Dashrath because Prachina in Sanskrit also means ancient and past. I said Ayodhya is the most ancient. It means ancient and past and also Eastern, right? I said Ayodhya is the oldest according to Valmiki Ramayana itself. So it is itself Prachina, and so it's no point telling him that, this is again, repeating himself. It's like I'm saying I'm the lord of my own home. Doesn't make sense. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I said, this doesn't make sense. And then if, let's say, the meaning is not the most ancient, then the meaning goes to Eastern, and towards the East was Videh, Mithila. So it cannot be under Raja, Dashrath's dominion because he married his son there. So automatically then they are like friendly countries. So he cannot say this is under my dominion. They're not. And so then, I found this mistake. I went to my teacher and we then explored. He said, this is wrong and it should be something else. And then I looked up Gita Press, Valmiki Ramayana, which, is very authentic when it comes to the Sanskrit verses. They haven't messed with the Sanskrit verses. So lo and behold, the Prachina is actually Dravida. So Dravidaha Sindhu Saviraha Saurashtra Dakshin Pataha. So Dravida has been deleted and Prachina has been added.
But here people talk about North and South version as well. So that is another very misinterpretation or manipulation where people say that it is, South version is different. But I don't think our scriptures were different at least 1,000 years back from North to South, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. So this is modern day mischief. This is, and especially the whole Dravid and Aryan battle, that this is the wedge that they are putting. There is no Dravid, there is no Aryan, it was just one. And Hindus did not see it like that. During the time of Bhagwan Ram, it was all under Ram's dominion, and so the original is actually Dravida. And why Dravida? Because it comes on the way to the ocean. The ocean is also under Bhagwan Ram's dominion, because Sagar is a forefather of Bhagwan Ram, and his 60,000 sons, according to Itihas, are the ones who expanded the ocean. That is why the ocean is called Sagar in Sanskrit, right? So that also belongs to Ram. So everything on the southern part belongs to Ram, or is under the dominion of Ram, and this is repeated. So I have actually written the whole thing and given enough proof from the Valmiki Ramayana for people to understand. And this people can read in how many kings were under Dashrath's dominion. So this is a bit of mischief that I found, and then very conveniently they say, oh, this is the southern recession of the southern version. No, there's no southern version. There's just one version, and people have inserted things, deleted things, so that it makes it is convenient for their current political or current thought processes, if they want to push an agenda. Sometimes this is my assumption that this has been done, because the words that I found were the ones I pointed. Now there are some genuine mistakes, and these genuine mistakes come from typesetting or the person who's reading it. So what is this genuine mistake that I've pointed out? So on page 126 of my book, I have mentioned about this. And this is in the shape and structure of residences. So this is about the Vimans that I am discussing. And in this, I have pointed out, the Nighantu. So in earlier times, the way they used to write Sanskrit was slightly different. And, one who doesn't understand the script very well can make a mistake. So, either a printing mistake, and this is a mistake. So either this is a printing mistake, or the person who's reading it hasn't read well. And so the mistake is Vimano Stri Devyane Sapta Bhumau Cha Sadmani Iti Nighantuha. Okay. And so the problem is that Asti, the way Asti is written in ancient times and today are different. So instead of writing instead of reading it Asti and noting it as Asti, it's written as Tri. So there is this mistake, and they're both very similar in the way ancient, a few hundred years ago people used to write. And so I've written here, corrected it and said Vimanaha Asti Devyane Saptabhume, etc., etc. So I have actually corrected that. So there are these little mistakes, and this you can only find out or know once you know the language. And another thing, I mean, of course, in my book, I couldn't write everything that I found was wrong. There's also context. So for example, the word parshav. So you have to understand what the context is. Parshav actually means to the side, but in certain contexts it means at the back side. So backside is also a side, right? So one has to know the context. So these are little errors people make. So when I was decoding, so I have a video on decoding the golden deer of the Valmiki Ramayana, and it wasn't golden. So it says on the parshav, it has this color, but the parshav they're talking about is the backside, because deers on the backside have a particular mark. So if anybody's interested, they can actually go take a look at, decoding the golden deer and know that it wasn't, a
It
golden.
wasn't a golden deer, you
It
mean?
wasn't a golden deer. So, I haven't gone to the detail of the errors that I've seen in English translations. And then, there's small errors, and, the context is mistaken. So I try and correct them. So my thing is that I have learned, let's say, X amount of Sanskrit. And the way I discuss and the way I write is that anybody, so anybody who's reading it can also know that this was wrong. And so Neena has corrected it. I can only write to the extent and explain to the extent of my knowledge. And my idea is that I share it with everybody.
Yeah, why not? Because otherwise, what are efforts, and we cannot wait for that particular right time when you know everything and then you start doing. It doesn't work. While growing, while learning, you have to start sharing. I mean, I have come across this idea very well. So my next question to you is that why did you choose Ayodhya? So why you thought that you have to write about Ayodhya, and what is so different or important about Ayodhya?
So my own paternal village, it's near the Ghaggar River, and I come from UP. So Ram and Ayodhya are very common subjects. And when I was younger, there used to be a lot of katha vachaks coming to my nanihal, right? And my father's side, they're, from, of course, my mother's side, they're from Ganga. I think Ganga flows from there. And my father's side, it's Ghaggar, which also used to be called Saryu. So I grew up, so I come from a zamindari family, and I remember my great grandfather's quote. So we used to be, so there was a quote, and we used to make a joke of it, actually. So he said, so Saryu or Ghaggar River, it floods every year, and then the floods are very bad. In a way, I mean, we're saying it's bad, but it's good for farmers, right? And for zamindars, it's very good because all the silt comes through. And so, your land becomes very, very upjao or very fertile because of the silt. So he used to, and because you wealthy landlords, so he used to say ki Saryu Nadi ka pani sook sakta hai, par Rai Khandan ka paisa nahi. So, we used to, so Saryu, UP, Ram, how the way the kings lived. My last name is Rai, which means kings. So my ancestors were kings. So these are just, this is my culture, and I'm very proud of it. And I grew up as a very proud Hindu. This is the family values that were inculcated in me. So as a proud Hindu, as a girl who knew her past, as a girl who understood this, and as a girl who knew scriptures, I used to find very, very traumatizing that the current generation used to hold Ayodhya in so much disdain, because they're very weak-minded people. I have noticed, especially the wokes, they're very weak-minded. They can't stand conflict. And because they can't stand conflict, they don't have the ability to, they don't have the strength, the self-assertiveness, and the ability to stand up for what's right. They're always trying to be cowardly when there is a conflict, and to come back from it. So what this does, or what this was doing, is that the current generation, a lot of woke started saying things like, why do we need a temple in Ayodhya? Why can't we have a hospital? Why can't we have this? Why can't we have a library? Well, have you ever thought of that when it comes to the Vatican? Did you ever think of it? Why doesn't anybody even question that? So this was my first premise. So this comes from weakness of thought. And then the other thing that comes, this is a result of weakness of thought in terms of conflict. When there is conflict, it's like, oh, just give it away. Just don't fight. This is cowardice. And the other reason I felt that this was happening was because they were uneducated. They may be literate, unko ka, kha, gha, gha, you know, they may know how to express themselves, but they were very uneducated. And this is a problem with secularizing of Indian education. The minorities, whoever they may be, are allowed to study their scriptures, are allowed to study their languages, but the majority are being deprived of their own linguistic heritage, of their own cultural heritage, by not allowing them to study in the Hindu, you know, system of studies. And because these people have no idea about the Valmiki Ramayana, why Ayodhya is important, they don't know that Ayodhya is the Adi Puri, which is like the first capital of the world. You know, they will make these statements. Ayodhya, if you go according to Valmiki Ramayana, it is the cradle of human civilization, because that's where Manuji, this is the Manuji's capital, and Ikshvaku, the first solar generation, established themselves there. So these are main reasons why I thought that I should focus on Ayodhya. And I studied, by the way, I studied Sanskrit. I started studying Sanskrit in 2015 to be able to understand Sanskrit and present my research to the world so that they understand the importance of Ayodhya. So that, you know, nobody can say, oh, well, and, you know, there's a very nice excuse people come up with that's like, oh, well, I didn't know, nobody told me. Now I'm telling you. Please read up about why Ayodhya is so important for Hindus and why they have kept fighting for hundreds of years. This is one of the longest battles that Hindus have fought, and fought rightfully so, to reclaim their land that was snatched away, reclaim their temples that was snatched from them forcefully. And, you know, so this is something that I wanted. And of course, I've told you, my interest was in ancient civilization, ancient thought, and how ancients used to live. And I was absolutely fascinated by the Valmiki Ramayana. And the, you know, and for me, Sanskrit is not only a language. Sanskrit is a key to the treasure of thousands of years of wisdom of our own ancestors, of humans who have come before us.
So very true. So while writing about Ayodhya, what all things you have come across? Like you have written about Manu, so who was our first creator, you know, and how he came into the existence. So apart from that, what all have you covered in the books? I mean, give us some idea about Manu first, and then maybe we'll go to the next, you know, question.
So our creator is Brahma, and Manu is a progenitor. So he's the protector and the progenitor. We are all progeny of Manu. So the word Manav, which is human beings, comes from the word Manu, which means the descendants or the children of Manu. And you know, and this, the same concept is in all religions across, especially Abrahamics have taken the whole concept, and the great flood, you know, Manu coming, Manu rescuing, Manu then starting the whole civilization. So in ancient times, if, you know, according to, by the way, and this is not only Hindu scriptures, many ancient cultures said that there were different types of species who were living at the same time. The most common other species is the Rakshas, or the giants, and they're across all ancient cultures. The sad part is that in the wake of you know, Christianity and Islam taking over the world, wherever Abrahamics have gone, they have totally decimated the ancient cultures. And Hinduism is one of the oldest indigenous civilizations, or the oldest indigenous cultures that's still standing and retains that knowledge, right? So we think that only Hindu scriptures talk about giants. So there was a time when there were different species of people, or I would say living beings on earth, who had consciousness and who were able to communicate. And in those times, so the human gene was saved by Manu. So he's the progenitor, and that is why his importance is there. And by the way, his importance is also written in the Gita, where we talk of Gyan Yoga. So even Sri Krishna recognizes the importance of Manu. And I have written about, so you know, you spoke about Manu. So the first chapter of my book is dedicated to Manu. And so this is, you know, the etymology of the word man. In English, the word man also is derived from Manu. So whether we take a look linguistically, whether we take a look historically, Manu is the first person, and and a lot of people own him as his own. They have lots of stories about him.
So when do you think, yeah, sorry, okay.
Manu comes in every Sankalp mantra that we have. So this is a copy of Sankalp mantra that I have in my book. So Sankalp mantra is done before every prayer. So Om Vishnu Vishnu Vishnu, and then if you go ahead, it tells you which kalp this is. Kalp, and then it says
yeah, which manvantar, which goes to
mantra, right? So we're in the Vivasvat. Yeah. And then Sri Krishna, says in the Gita that Sri, and this is Jnana Yoga, and this is the first shloka of Jnana Yoga, and he says, it says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktvahan Aham Avyam. So if you go ahead, so I've actually underlined it. And so what he's saying, what Sri Krishna is showing, is that Vivaswan, Manu, and Ikshvaku received knowledge by disciplic succession. And a lot of people don't understand, because he's saying that I gave them this knowledge. And a lot of people don't understand that how is it that Sri Krishna is giving this knowledge? So Sri Krishna means as God, as the supreme, as I am the one who gave this knowledge. Knowledge, right? Not Sri Krishna in his human avatar. He's saying, I gave this knowledge, and this knowledge goes by disciplic succession. And this is Jnana Yoga. So this is knowledge, the yoga of knowledge. And so the Hindu dharma that is followed today is the dharma of the Vivaswan, Manu, Ikshvaku, Ram. And so Ram comes under the lineage. That is why he's an icon for all Hindus. He's the one who's the flag bearer of knowledge and dharma for Hindus. And this little point is something that a lot of people miss, and therefore they don't understand the importance of Bhagwan Ram. All this knowledge, yoga especially, yoga, and then Sankhya darshan. So first darshan that people had was Sankhya darshan. So Ramayana is written in the time where Sankhya darshan was very, very dominant. Yoga is considered to be derived from Sankhya darshan, and also Tantra. So all the people who study yoga should actually thank Sri Ram's lineage, Ikshvaku, and all of them for bringing it, this knowledge, So these are little things that people don't know about Manu, Ram, Hindu dharma, and why they're important, even though Sri Krishna is saying it in the Gita. I think people miss it. So, I just made it a point to remind them. And so this is
really wonderful, because people don't read Bhagavad Gita. Others, they do read their religious scriptures, but Bhagavad Gita is completely out of our syllabus. And if you see the routine of a common man in India, it's very difficult to fit scriptures into their daily lives, because they are just running after making their ends meet, and they have to do their jugaad of everyday ka khana. So a hungry stomach cannot digest scriptures. That's what I always believed. First their requirement is something else. But even though people who have got money, even they are not able to digest, because their desires are somewhere else. So my question to you is, what do you think, when Ayodhya was established, and how old, how ancient Ayodhya is, and where those proofs are found?
So Ayodhya is as old as humankind. If we can't find that, we say, 10,000 years ago we found this, and then we found this, just because we're not able to find proof. But we have enough of oral proof, and we have enough of scriptural proof, to know how antique Ayodhya is. Of course, if it was the first Adi Puri, that means it was probably established in Satyayug. Raja Harishchandra, who's one of the main characters of Satyayug, also is from the same lineage. So it's really old, and I have talked about it in my book, chapter 3, when was Ayodhya established? So people who want details can go and take a look there as well. And I'll tell you the proof that I've given in scriptures for how ancient Ayodhya is. So during the coronation of Bhagwan Ram, and this is how this is a whole chapter on the unbroken link of the solar dynasty from the Satya Yuga to the Treta Yuga. And for all, for those of you who don't know, Satya Yuga is the first yuga in the Chaturyuga cycle. So we are in Kali Yuga, which is the last, the last leg of the Yuga cycle. And Bhagwan Ram came in Treta Yuga, and in Dwapar we had Krishna. So it's one of the most, and by the way, this is all mentioned in the book. And I'm not going to burst people's bubbles, by giving them the information. But Ram Bhagwan inherits something of Manu. And it was given to Manu by Brahma himself. So this is how old it is. We may or may not be able to find the proof in real life, like, can you have the same thing again? No, it would have probably disintegrated. It was so ancient, it might be stolen or, something. But this is how, Valmiki has documented he's documented certain things. And I'm just given one example of it, which is given by Brahma himself to Manu. Why Manu? And Manu, by the way, is a title. Manu is a title given to the protector and the progenitor of the human species. It's like the title of Prime Minister of India or the President of India, right? So he's the one who regenerated humans as species. So we'd be able to walk and eat and, grow and learn and, exist, because there were many species. So he's the one who was a progenitor. And then Ram Bhagwan had killed off all the Rakshas, and then he becomes very important as well. And so he then again becomes a protector of the human race, because the Rakshas used to eat the humans. So there was this whole culture of cannibalism with this particular species of, they were not humans, they were Rakshas, they were like much larger. So giants, as you would call it, they were much larger than us. So again, he's the protector of the human species. And so this is how, and this is one of the reasons why, they are so important. And I think a lot of times, even though we find excavations of these large people that used to walk this earth, this is somehow hidden from us. It's not revealed to us, even though we see in so many ancient temples, in other ancient cultures, that these pictures of these giants are made. But then where did the giants go? How did they disappear? Nobody knows. But the Valmiki Ramayana says that again and again, that to protect the humans, Ram had to come and kill off all the Rakshas. Otherwise, survival for humans would be absolutely impossible. They would have been finished off. So, and of course, so this is how antique we are, that we do, in our memory and consciousness, we don't even know that other races coexisted with Earth, coexisted on Earth with us, and they were not friendly to us. So, this is just wiped out. And to somebody, this may sound as bizarre as like coming from a sci-fi fiction or, some fiction.
Exactly. I was about to ask you that when a movie of a sci-fi movie is made out of those giant creatures, we are ready to accept. But when we say it was mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana, we start questioning whether it was true or not true, and how did they survive, and what did they do, and how come Ram could kill it. And Ram is the example. That's why we call him, we call it Ram Rajya, because he's that ideal thing, ideal king, ideal ideology itself that we have to follow for millions of years. Yes. So with this, I have this question in my mind. I just got this question in my mind right now, that which timeline do you follow? Because, there are a couple of in our session only, we have questioned a couple of other authors who have said 14,000 years, and somebody said 5,000 years and all. So according to you, which timeline do you follow when it comes to dating when Ram was there, or dating every yuga, like, all the 4 yugas?
So two of my friends, they are into dating. So, and they both are against, their opinions don't match. So those of you who know Panditji, he's there. And there's another friend of mine who's into dating. So, I don't get into dating wars. I go into others.
No, you have to tell me what you believe. I, like, for example, because I have gone through scriptures from north to south, like both ways. And frankly, when it comes to dating, it's very clear. It's 432,000 wala cycle, and the like solar system, or the human days which we calculate is, we are not calculating the days of devtas. Then there are different. They go into 14 and 15,000 years only. So according to the solar cycle, which date do you follow?
Okay, so I know the scriptures. So because I'm not into dating, my explanations might not be exactly accurate, because it's something that I avoid on purpose, because I don't want to get into unnecessary controversy and not have knowledge. I like to speak about Sanskrit and what says and what happened. That's my forte, right? And I have two friends of mine who
and
are,
they both don't agree. Yeah, I understand.
they don't agree. So
I have 3 dates with me. Don't worry.
yeah, so there is Nilesh Vok, and then there is Pandit. Both are my friends, and I really don't get into that debate. But you asked me about Devi and Devtas, and you asked about us and the difference in the lifespan and the years for them. I agree with that. I agree that there is a massive difference. For example, I'll tell you, Earth rotates around the sun in 365 days. Mars takes longer, Venus is shorter, and a rotation of Saturn is, almost 35, 36 years. Rahu Ketu is 18 and a half years. And Jupiter is 12 years, right? For 1 year. And, and if people doubt this, and you can talk to any astrologer, they'll tell you, anybody who studied astronomy. So it takes us 1 year to go around the sun. It takes Jupiter 12 years to go around the sun from place A, come back to place B, right?
Yes, yes.
Why does this happen? And Mercury and Venus, they are the fastest. Why does this happen? It's simply because Mercury is the fastest moving planet, so it's always close to the sun.
Yeah.
The is Venus, so it's there. Third is Earth, and obviously Saturn and Jupiter are further away. So
exactly.
This is basic knowledge.
True.
In the same way, like we are satellites of the sun because we rotate around the sun, our sun is also a satellite.
True.
Now, most people do not know that our sun is also a satellite, and humans are with the satellite of the sun, and they are rotating around another star.
Mm-hmm.
The sun rotates around another star, and the gods, the planets of the gods, or what we claim as planets of the gods, they're also rotating around the same. This is something, it's written in the scriptures, and people don't know that. And so a lot of people don't know what we are rotating around. And so I'd like to inform people that our sun rotates around the Dhruv Tara. And the Earth's inclination is also towards Dhruv Tara.
True. Yeah, north side, that's how our polar, the whole direction is, pointed to. And that's what our cycle and our, what do you call it? When we look at the compass, it starts from Dhruv Tara.
Yes.
Right.
So Dhruv Tara is the focal point. That's the home of Narayan, or the seed of Narayan, whatever you want to call it. It's so Dhruv, and then the Saptarshi are closest to Dhruv Tara. So you see the Saptarshi are always pointing to Dhruv Tara. That's because they also rotate around the Dhruv Tara. And the Saptarshi are the Saptarshi or the 7 bears are also rotating, because anytime you want to know where the North Pole is, you just have to find the Saptarshi and you can point it out. So when I was a young girl, my father taught me stargazing. So I know these correlations. And how is it that always you see the Saptarshi in the sky? That's and the pole star, which is Dhruv Tara. That's because they are ahead of us. They're closer there. So obviously a rotation of the Saptarshi, or they're going to be closer, and then that's where the rishis reside. Then you have all the other planets like Dharma and all the other gods and goddesses, their planets are also there. Then you have the nakshatras we see in the sky, they're also rotating around there. And then we have the solar system, our sun and humans, and they're ahead of us. And so their rotation is smaller. And therefore, and for us, we are further away. So one yug for us is equal to, let's say, a day of, gods. So, and this is what I was trying to explain, that we take,
time.
So we have 365 days around the year and we do a circle, and Jupiter takes 12 years to do the same thing. So if you put the same in Devatas, who are closer to Dhruv Taras, the planet of the Devas and the Rishis, obviously they'll have a shorter circle around the sun. Their lifespan will be more. And the people further away, their years are going to be much larger. I hope that this makes it very clear for people. Yeah, and if anybody wants to learn, this is written in the Srimad Bhagavad.
Exactly.
So this is written, and this is just, and the thing is that we never question, why is the earth also tilted to Dhruv? This is where our gods are. This is where we are. This is where we are hurling towards. And so this is where we are rotating. And it's a whole spiral. And there is a great meditation on it as well, and which ancient yogis, especially the Nirgun Brahma version of the creator, is prayed to. So there is the Sagun Brahma and there's the Nirgun Brahma. So this is a meditation of the great rishi. So those who have studied yoga, I study yoga as well. So I read all of this, and it's just fascinating. And I hope that it is clear that there is a whatever.
Very well explained. You have explained it so well, quite clear compared to all, or not all, but a few speakers who had spoken to in the past, because people should understand that what kind of time range and timeline we are talking about, and on what basis. Otherwise, it's bound to be a confusion. So my next question is, sorry.
The reason confusion happens is that a lot of people are not able to explain it lucidly because it's not clear in their own mind.
True.
So a lot of people may want to explain this, but they don't know what the basis for this reasoning is. The basis of the reasoning is the distance from the star that we are. So, for example, moon is a satellite of Earth. We can say Earth is a satellite of the sun. So, and then similarly, the sun is a satellite of Dhruv Tara, because the sun revolves around Dhruv Tara. So you see how far we are in that. And so because sun is almost like Pluto, what Pluto is to sun is to Dhruv Tara. So this is the reason why our life is so, we can't compare ourselves to the gods. They are way ahead, way closer. So
true, very true. Okay, so my next question is, where is Kosala, and where was or where is? You have to give me both past location and the present.
So Kosal kingdom was spread throughout. So Kosal was an empire, and this is in chapter 9. And I don't want to bore people by,
We have to give some idea about what is Kosal.
Okay.
The idea is that we want people to know about UP, Ayodhya, the importance of Ayodhya, and the things around Ayodhya.
So have you heard of the Roman Empire?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But Rome is a little country somewhere.
Yeah, very small. Yeah.
But why I'm saying it is because it's like Western, people, they talk so much about the Roman Empire. Now,
True.
Rome is in Italy. It's a little place, but then the Roman Empire spread across one of the largest empires in the sort of ancient world. So similarly was the Kosal Empire. And I have given, and the previous error that I pointed out to you was because of this. And I have explained how, in ancient times, you could have an empire, you could be living in a small place, but you could be ruling the whole earth through the concept of Samant Raj, or through the Raj or Samant Rajas. So a Samant, so for an emperor to be an emperor, he had to have a minimum of 1,000 kings under him. And so a king would only be, the king, he's called an emperor. What is the difference between a king and an emperor, a Raja and a Maharaja? So this is what I have tried to explain here. So Kosal may be in UP, Awadh, or whatever, that may be a little place, or people may not understand. But then the Kosal kingdom was spread throughout the whole world. Dashrath was the emperor, and so Kosal was an empire. And the error that I had earlier pointed out to you explains the extent of his empire. And he says in that my empire, or my dominion on this earth, extends to as much as the revolution of a wheel, and the revolution of a wheel is infinite. So Kekai could ask for anything and he would get it for her. So this is when he explains, and this is the same thought process that the Romans copied. And why I'm saying copied, because Kosal Empire was way prior to the Roman Empire, and the Romans ruled the world exactly through the same system of Samant Raj. They call them provincial kings. There was never a provincial emperor. There were provincial kings, which is similar to Samant Raj, or kings, and then Maharaj. And and another important thing that I'd want to tell you is that only Maharaj could do Ashwamedh Yajna. So Dasharatha does Ashwamedh and Ram does Ashwamedh for this reason. And so they had to have had a lot of kings under them. There were empires. This is Kosal. So if you go into location and, then you'll be like, oh, Kosal is such a little place. So was this the empire? No, it wasn't. It's like Italy is so small. And in that, Rome is so small. But then the Roman Empire, went up to England, and, it was one of the largest empires. And so similarly, Kosal Empire extended across the world. I hope that makes
interesting. Yeah, of course. Of course, I don't expect you to read out the whole book to our audience, because we have a lot of things are there. So my last question, because we are almost closer to our time, let's talk about Ayodhya. So what is the importance of today's Ayodhya in our lives as a Hindu, whether I live in Ayodhya, whether I live in India, whether I live in UP, or I live outside India? How much and why I should think of Ayodhya as a place, why it should be there in my life,
it's so difficult to explain a concept. It's like, why is breath necessary for life? Why is breath necessary for life? Why is your mother necessary for you? Why is your father necessary for you? Your whole existence, the existence of Hindus, stems, as per the scriptures, from Ayodhya. And I have just in this interview previously, I've explained how antique it is, what is the importance, how Manu is the progenitor of the human species, how dharma started from there, how God gave Jnana Yoga to Manu and Ikshvaku and everybody else, and how the dharma that we follow comes from Ayodhya, and how our favorite avatar is from Ayodhya. I mean, how do you separate breath from life? And this is the sad part. People live without knowing that the breath is what keeps them alive, and the breath is the connection with the Atman. right? That's how you connect. And when we live daily life, we don't even think about our breath, but stop breathing for 5 minutes and you won't survive. So this is how I relate to Ayodhya. This should be the importance of Ayodhya to every Hindu. It's like your breath, it's like your parents, it's like this is where you came from according to our scriptures. This is what it is. And this is what Valmiki ji says, this is what our our scriptures say, our dharma says this. Just as we are very, because breath is so, not paid attention to, our mind is, running here and there, the 500 things that we are doing, like you said, that, when you're hungry, you're only thinking of survival. So this is how lost most Hindus are today, and they don't realize the importance. And Ayodhya is not only important for Hindus, it is also people from Ayodhya have been, spread across the world, including Korea. So if you know about the Korean queen who left from here, so all the Kims, they trace their ancestry to Ayodhya. I mean, this is something that we should be so proud of, and we don't know the importance of it. And the sad part is that very few people talk about it, and they have reduced Ayodhya to just a conflict of the mandir and the masjid, which is a sad, sad thing. This is not a conflict. This is a place of extreme importance to everybody in the world, as the place sort of where, according to scriptures, life began, humans came. And so this is the way I see Ayodhya. And I hope that, with this interview, people are able to understand the depth of the importance of Ayodhya and not take it for granted as just, breath we breathe every day. So we take our life for granted.
That is so true. The whole idea of inviting you is because I was really impressed by your book, and another thing is people just don't understand that how we relate to Ayodhya. They think we were born in other states, so why? But UP, and especially Ayodhya, is actually our life, our lifeline, and we cannot ignore it. And especially when we are seeing this drastic change happening in Ayodhya with that temple coming up and a lot of other things getting corrected with the right governance, it's time that we acknowledge and we ensure that we retain that legacy, because otherwise, if we lose Ayodhya, if we lose our identity, then we are nowhere, as in we will not have anywhere in the world to go. Because one thing we must remember, that nobody likes us. They all want to convert us. They for them we are a commodity, that they just want us to change our identity for whatever reason, whatever purposes. And this is our fight to uphold our dharma, our identity, and ensure that we remain what we were thousands of years back, and we are today, and we will remain the same even after thousands of years.
Yes, so Abrahamics have a huge problem with indigenous cultures. So Hindus are the indigenous people of India, and they are the oldest living religion or dharma, that you want to call it, in the world. And so this is the reason these attacks happen. So if you will see anywhere the spread of Abrahamism has gone, the indigenous culture has been wiped out.
They're fully uprooted. Yeah, very badly.
They're lost. They don't have, the value systems. Look at the world. It's in chaos. I'm sorry to say. And all other indigenous cultures are in the museums.
That is so true. We are the only one who's surviving, thriving, growing, fighting, and doing every possible thing to keep up that, identity.
Yes. So this causes the fact. So this causes a lot of problems for insecure people. So the fact that you exist causes insecurities in a lot of people. Your being causes insecurities in a lot of people, especially false gods, I would say that. So, but one has to remember, never be disarmed. The concept of, never be mentally weak or feel weak or threatened by this. one must remember that whatever has a beginning will have an end. We must remember this.
Yes.
And so if any of the Abrahamic religions have, or any religion has a start date, it will have an end date for sure. What doesn't have that is Sanatan, which is Hindu Dharma, which will keep continuing because we don't have a start date. So we will not have an end date. But that this has to be remembered, and the value system have to be remembered. And you'd be surprised to know that we're in a very good position today. Imagine during the time of Babur, when the temple was being destroyed. Imagine the condition of Hindus then, and just feel very proud of the resistance of your ancestors against these marauders, these low-class marauders, who just with brute force, no intelligence, they came and decimated everything. This is how intelligent cultures have disappeared. And I'm very proud of our ancestors to have fought that. And this thought that we're going to be born again and we're going to revive everything. Just imagine today, did Babur or any of these peoples who destroyed the temple, and they destroyed, the Ram Janambhoomi temple because they thought then that it'll be easy for them to convert Hindus. So can you imagine, more than 500 years we have fought for that temple. So imagine how many lifetimes people must have thought, those Hindus who died then, sacrificed and said, we will not convert and we will die. We'll be born again, are the people who have come back again and are now winning those wars.
Very true.
They are reclaiming our own past. So be very, very proud of that. Who would know that Neena would be born in this time and would educate people about Ayodhya? Who would know that, the lawyers who are today who fought this case would be born and would win it in court? So never, feel disheartened, and be very proud of everybody who's upheld Dharma, and know that the Ram will be back again, and Krishna will be back again, and that even if we die today fighting, we'll be born again to revive this. And this is the beauty of Sanatan Dharma or Hindu Dharma, which is like there's no beginning and there's no end, and we will keep being born again and again and fighting and fighting and fighting. So one must be very proud and never feel threatened by the tactics of the Abrahamics. They're going to get wiped out faster.
Much faster than we can even think of. So thank you, Neena ji. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed. I know you're not keeping well, but you did really very well. I mean, the way you were fearing, but I think you have showed your courage and your interest in the subject. And I think you did very good job today. And I'm so happy, and I'm so thankful to you for this session. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you for asking me the right questions, because our quality of life is dependent on the questions we ask, because on the quality of our questions, we get the answers. So thank you for asking me beautiful questions and sharing it with the whole world.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Namaste. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.